hacking, slashing, and mass evacuating. This is SCP Vault 10, Horrific High Scores, tearing into your living room, bedroom, workplace, or anywhere you desire a relentless containment breach. October is the month of bloody piles and horrifying figures, and this year, I mean both of those things in double entendres, detailing the most gruesome displays of carnage, terror, and mayhem by volume for the Halloween season. If you're not able to hang with corpses, torment, and the innocent turning into grist for the mill, sit this one out, or be mindful for context setting you up for a tough entry, and use the video timeline to skip ahead. The rest of you, get out the wheelbarrows and anything you need to tally up the numbers. This is an exercise in excess. And to kick it all off, allow me to run some numbers on the home front for those who love horror and quench some thirst. This SCP Vault isn't sponsored, but it is energized with my excitement for the exclusive macabre merch drop via Gamersubs, launched by the Floating Hoodie Quite and featuring artwork from the incredible Odd Oblivion. If you needed something unique for your horror sensibilities, this is one of the most daring and striking drops Gamersubs has ever backed, featuring a full wrap art cup, a total two-sided shirt, reversible jaw-dropping black and white and color wave in one parka, and the most stop-and-stare otherworldly apocalyptic mousepad you've ever seen. You can get in on this super limited drop now and use my exclusive code, NM, which directly supports me in any applicable purchases through Gamersubs. So in this one drop, you can support Quite, Odd Oblivion, and me while getting some of the sickest limited horror merch available. My direct affiliate link is in the video description and goes to the Macabre drop page. Just remember to check that you're using the coupon code NM at checkout. Pre-orders on all of this end November 6th, so get in quick. Now, who's ready for the frightening facts and figures? Our show's about to begin. SCP-3256 is for all of those who go to a show for the classic hits. A mimetic anomaly, it manifests information related to a string of murders under the MO of the Brockton Bay Binder, tentatively designated SCP-3256-A, a serial killer who was active in New England from 1993 to 2000. SCP-3256 can appear in any written, artistic, and photographic depiction of a body mutilated in the Brockton Bay Binder's signature style. Individuals susceptible to 3256 who become exposed to it are designated 3256-B. Upon infection, 3256-B subjects will develop several behaviors, most prominently redacted, and a strong aversion to insects. 3256-B subjects will, eventually, be compelled to carry out at least one murder matching the MO of the Brockton Bay Binder. The amount of murders carried out by SCP-3256-B subjects is unknown, but is believed to be between 150 and 200. The name Brockton Bay Binder was coined by the Brockton Bay Chronicle following the discovery of the first 5 victims over the course of March to September of 1993. The killings have formed the basis for episodes of several crime drama and police procedural shows, making a highly contagious breeding ground for 3256 during broadcasts. The true identity, or possible identities, of the Brockton Bay Binder has never been ascertained. Due to the profile formed by the SCP-3256-B infected, it's assumed the individual or individuals who carried out the original murders were similar in appearance and background. SCP-3256's first occurrence was in 2008, with a string of what came across as copycat murders in Maryland, carried out by Harold Kingsmith, an FBI profiler who worked on the Binder case in the 90s. In the first 24 hours of infection, he'd killed his wife, then moved on to claim 2 more victims. He was apprehended while attempting to dispose of the 4th body. 2 more copycat strings followed in Maine, perpetrators unknown. The spread of this phenomenon called for a task force, codename Webcutter, employed to make anti-mimetic deployment and detect new occurrences of SCP-3256 murders. As for the method used in the killings, let's turn on the anti-mimetic tone added to the file by Webcutter's team and take a look. An autopsy report for Jane Doe No. 1 from 2009 describes cause of death as suffocation by introduction of a redacted item in the sinus cavity and trachea. Dr. Wendell Adler conducts the autopsy, recording findings. Primary toxicological screenings have found trace amounts of latrotoxin in the system, he says. That's the venom wielded by black widow spiders. No signs or symptoms related to latrodectism are present in the body, he goes on, speaking of the result of latrotoxic poisoning, suggesting that the subject died prior to the symptoms manifesting. It's written that at this point, Assistant Dr. Scott's endoscope makes contact with the redacted in the subject's sinus. Startled, Scott removes the endoscope abruptly, tearing open the sinus cavity and exposing the redacted. Dr. Adler grabs an acetylene torch and attempts to incinerate the redacted emerging from the cadaver. The cadaver's face is destroyed beyond any possibility of reconstruction. Dr. Adler was reprimanded for destroying evidence, but the incident gives us insight into what was lodged in the sinuses and trachea: a live black widow spider. An excerpt is included on this file from the audio diary of Special Agent Edgar Park. It is Thursday, May 21st, 2009. This is my 4th entry into this diary. When I was at Quantico, one of the things that was made clear to us was the FBI, not just unusual incidents, is a bunch of fuck-ups. Mulder and Scully aren't absurd because they hunt Bigfoot and aliens. They're absurd because they get shit done. When it comes to serial killers, we've dropped the ball more times than we've got it. The Binder's one of the worst loose ends when it comes to New England. Hopefully, we can at least catch the original one and put this shit to rest. Park out. An outbreak occurred in October of the same year in the greater Boston area, following the airing of a crime procedural about a serial killer who used animal venom. The Binder was specifically mentioned in the first act, and the episode, titled Sid the Spider, was immediately removed from circulation. The first SCP-3256 manifestation here was in Jamaica Plain, resulting in the murder of a 21-year-old female. Brockton Bay Binder MO is partially revealed here with mention of all redacted removed from the body. Another body was discovered, but unidentifiable. It had been found dismembered and suspended in trees around Walden Pond. This broke from the MO of the Binder, but study of an SCP-3256 effect revealed the reason. The afflicted individual had stored the body parts for consumption later. There are a few autopsy reports that follow, but one in particular is of interest. Melissa Portman, date of death May 5, 2010, one of the original Binder victims who actually escaped. She factored into the equation years later in a follow-up interview attempt, found dead in her car after brushing off a web cutter undercover agent approaching her. Cause of death first stated to be suffocation, then struck and labeled envenomation. Dr. Adler tells Dr. Scott to run the tox screen again. Scott says it's been run through 3 different labs, but Adler insists on using it again in their own lab. Their system is saturated with redacted, which is completely fucking impossible, he states. She's never been to Australia, and that redacted isn't in any zoo or pet shop in Minnesota. Maybe it's something else? Scott offers. Like, hold on, open the inside of her mouth. At this point, Dr. Scott is heard straining as she attempts to pull out Portman's left upper cuspid. It comes loose, and Dr. Scott brings it under a microscope to analyze. Does that look like human dental structure to you? Dr. Scott asks. Does it even look like a tooth? My God, what the hell? Dr. Adler says, then pauses. It looks... No, it can't be. Dr. Scott replies, I think that whatever this is imprints the biology of a redacted onto a human and rewrites the body? Adler offers. The DNA is conclusively human for both her and Planter, but it does make sense to a degree. Suddenly, Dr. Scott starts yelling. What the fuck? What the fuck? Run for it, Adler commands. Take the tooth. He grabs the recording apparatus and flees alongside Dr. Scott. After the autopsy lab is sealed, there's a minute of silence, then Dr. Scott speaks. Please tell me you saw that. The body was made of spiders, Adler quietly finishes. Testing of the tooth removed from Portman's mouth determined it was the calarica and fang of an unknown, very large spider of the Atrax genus, coated in a layer of webbing that resembled enamel. Following this, the remains of other victims were inspected. Their cadavers, while retaining a humanoid shape, were found to be composed almost entirely of body parts and webbing from spiders. This detail escaped both visual observation and electronic recording devices, suggesting SCP-3256 may be reality-bending in nature. Serial killers and spiders, two of the most feared beings in the world. Not too sensitive in the throat after that, are you? This next one's a treat you don't want to miss. Unless you always believe in sparing the children, even in the darkest horror tales. If that's the case, don't taste test this one. Just skip to the next entry. SCP-5853 are packaged taffy candies, each package containing 2, 1 blue raspberry and 1 red cherry. While the blue candy has displayed no anomalous effects so far, anyone who takes the red after reciting the key phrase will be transported to an extra-dimensional space, Tiki Taffy Town, referred to as SCP-5853-A, a 90s-era TV program that advertised SCP-5853. Document File 1, Discovery, outlines the most notable connections and child disappearances linked to SCP-5853. Before going missing, a child would last be seen interacting with the kitchen pantry. The wrapper of the blue raspberry taffy would be left behind, but never the red cherry. A secondary character in Tiki Taffy Town, Mr. Hister, would make an appearance on the last aired episode of the show, before the disappearance. Lastly, the show's theme song would be heard upon the child vanishing. Document File 2, Character Descriptions, lists 5 main characters, referred to as entities of SCP-5854-A. Mr. Squibbles, a bipedal humanoid figure with the head of a plush octopus. Mrs. Bobble, a female entity dressed in attire similar to that of a stereotypical clown who wears an oversized multicolored blouse and cargo pants. Kizzywink, a small entity roughly 1 meter in height that resembles a bipedal feline with humanoid hands and an oversized head. Franzipans, a small, rotund, plush-like avian entity roughly 0.3 meters in length and wingspan. Entity has an anthropomorphic hammer in place of a beak. Despite its small wingspan, Franzipans is able to fly and will often hit the other entities as a form of physical comedy. And last, Mr. Hister, 2.3 meters high, male humanoid entity with a long, golden yellow hooded robe. This entity uses tentacles that emerge from beneath its cloak as a means of transport. Attempts at obtaining facial descriptions have proven difficult due to the significant distorting effects it has on recordings when entering the video frame. It's written that every episode containing Mr. Hister typically starts with hypercolorized, pleasant lighting and tone, consistent with kids' programs. The main cast of entities will act normally throughout the first half of the episode while learning about the day's lesson. Tying shoes, the importance of brushing teeth, locking doors, listening to parents, telling the truth, etc. Once Mr. Hister enters, distortions come along. The subject matter changes drastically as SCP-5853-A5 offers stark nihilistic messages about reality, existence, death, and time. The other entities show signs of distress at his statements. A testing log is included in the file, dated January 4th, 2000. Lead researcher Frank Monroe restrained a D-class subject in a chair placed in front of a TV playing the first appearance of Mr. Hister. Almost immediately, the D-class asked for the doctor overseeing the testing. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. "I got some memories with this show," he said. "My younger brother, he used to watch this show all the time until he disappeared." The research team was reportedly shaken, but chose to proceed with the test. The show continued to play up until Mr. Hister's monologue, delivering dark views of life. Once he exited, the show played its closing song and credits rolled. Frank Monroe asked the D-class if he was ready to proceed with the next part of the test. On positive response, he instructed a researcher to deliver the taffies. "Oh shit, I haven't seen these in years," the D-class said. "They're like a novelty now, huh? I always liked the raspberry. Jeremy always took the cherry." Frank Monroe turned on the mic. "D-class, on the back of the box you will find a phrase taped to it. Please eat a red piece, and the red piece only, then say the phrase." D643-980 ate the cherry candy, looked at the back of the box, and recited, "Flesh is not the truth." Video feed from the subject's camera distorted. The theme song of SCP-5853-A was heard as D643-980 disappeared from the observation area. A second test log immediately follows, documenting the D-class's journey through jumpsuit camera and audio communication. He appeared in total darkness for a moment before lifting a wooden object above him. Stepping out, he saw he'd just been in a container marked Mr. Squibbles' treasure chest. Through a set of doors, an exact replica of the SCP-5853-A set was seen, with locations not shown during episodes filled with a white backdrop. The sound of a door opening was heard, and SCP-5853-A1 through 4 walked on set through the front. D643-980 rushed back to hide in Mr. Squibbles' treasure chest and kept it open just enough to watch. The entity spoke casually, acting in character until 5853-A4, Franzipans, flew towards the camera. 643-980 pulled back inside, breathing fast and labored. 5853-A1, Mr. Squibbles, opened his treasure chest and looked down at 643-980.
"Oh, what pleasure,"
he greeted.
"Hello there, little boy. Welcome to Ticky Taffy Town. I'm Mr. Squibbles."
643-980 screamed. 5853-A3, Kizzywink, asks,
"Why is this one so loud and so big?"
Mr. Squibbles assured the D-Class he meant no harm, then insisted he have a seat and calm down before joining them for an engagement in town. Frank Monroe instructed 643-980 to play along while they formed an extraction team. And so, he accompanied the residents of Ticky Taffy Town on the walk to its center. The first observation was the number of the house he exited. S01E03, the shorthand code for the episode he watched. The surrounding area was made up of a miniature town only seen briefly in the opening sequence of the show, and other versions of the main cast walked down adjacent roads, each group surrounding a child. Researcher Jennifer Lamb, studying the scene, asked, "So, exactly how many episodes are stealing children?" Frank Monroe answered, "We've counted 31 episodes with Mr. SCP-5853-A5. Jesus, Jennifer muttered. With reruns, VHS sales, that crazy internet showing everything now. How many children? Hundreds? Thousands? Researcher Morgan Eskew immediately sought containment procedures. Jennifer told her they'd require her endorsement, but she wasn't willing to send countless mobile task forces into a territory they'd only just seen. The D-Class would be used to gain information, then they'd attempt extraction. It's written that all SCP-5853 cast entities gathered at a fountain in the center of town. Over 100 entities and over 200 children could be seen. Many were in a state of petrified fear, others looking sleep-deprived, and most crying. Amid the white backdrop, 15 meters above the fountain, a 3 by 2 meter mirror-like rectangle appeared. It spun until the blur of its motion created a black void, out of which SCP-5853-A5 emerged. The mirror behind him slowed to a stop, its reflective surface expelling a continuous stream of white light. From the white backdrop surrounding the space, hundreds of dark humanoid entities materialized, each motionless, suspended upside down in the air, all the size of a child. Mr. Hister then addressed the town, its voice a combination of many overlap whispers and hisses. As it spoke, the suspended figures twitched and shook. "Hello, my children. How is everyone today?" The crowd of entities cheered and jumped. "That's so good to hear. My children, it is time to tell Mr. Hister what lesson you learned today." The entity pointed a long, slender, bony finger at one of the children opposite D643-980 on the other side of the fountain. "Yes, you, my child. What is your name?" The child was a female with blonde hair, approximately 4 to 6 years of age. She appeared disturbed. "My child, do I frighten you? Don't you remember, Mr. Hister?" The child nodded and said her name was Bethany. "Well, Bethany, why don't you come up here and tell Mr. Hister what lesson you learned today?" She approached and hesitantly shared a lesson from Mr. Squibbles untying one's shoes in a special way to ensure they don't come loose. "Oh, Bethany, that is so good and so smart of you. Your prize is to pass through the mirror and into the dreamlands." SCP-5853-A5 lunged out with a tentacle. SCP-5853-A5 lunged out with a tentacle grabbed the child, and threw her into the mirror behind him. Her cries were cut off as her body crossed the threshold. Immediately, several children tried to run. Cast members among the crowd restrained them with ease. Mr. Hister reached out with another tentacle and grabbed the child, 5 to 7 years of age. "And what is your name, young man?" The child sobbed uncontrollably, but under gentle shushing and assuring words from Mr. Hister, he eventually choked out, "Tyrone." "Well, Tyrone, can you tell Mr. Hister what lesson you learned today?" Tyrone struggled with his words and admitted he didn't know. He didn't pay attention during the episode. "You didn't learn anything, Tyrone?"
No,
Tyrone sniffed. "Well then, Tyrone, you are now going to learn your lesson." SCP-5853-A5 held the child over the fountain and began to flay him. Small chunks of flesh fell from the tentacle's serrated suckers as Tyrone screamed in pain. Blood and muscle dropped into the fountain, turning the water red. The remaining children attempted to escape with the urgency of survival, and D-643-980 joined them. All around, the tentacles of Mr. Hister seized children at a much faster rate, skipping the previous introductions and going straight to asking each child what lesson they learned. As each answered, they all met the fate of the previous children based on responses: dreamland or dismemberment. At last, SCP-5853-A5 turned to D-643-980. "Well, hello there. You're quite the hefty child, aren't you? No matter. Pray tell, what have you learned today?"
My name is Dave, he gasped. "Dave."
"And Mr. Trenton, what did you learn today?" Dave of D-Class asked Frank Monroe how to respond. He frantically flipped through the transcript of the episode, looking for the lesson. Mr. Hister, however, latched onto the query, asking what he said.
I remember, D-643-980 blurted out. "On my way here, I was told by Mr. Scribbles, don't make Mrs. Bobble upset, lest you fail his hideous test."
"Oh, my dear child, so close. You should know the consequences of your actions. You are to exist for all stars amongst your brother."
Wait, no.
SCP-5853-A5 injured D-643-980 in a way not caught on the camera, then lifted him to the sky with the other suspended humanoid figures. Video feed showed a young boy of 9 to 11 years of age suspended upside down alongside him, unrecognizable except for his clothing. D-643-980 identified his brother, crying out,
"Jeremy? Oh, Jeremy! I'm sorry. Please wake up. Jeremy! Can you hear me? Jeremy? Please?"
The D-Class fell silent, unresponsive to all prompts from command. For 3 days, the camera feed could be seen. A continuous stream of red fluid, presumed to be blood, flowed over the camera lens. Of note, the volume of blood seen passing the shoulder cam of D-643-980 was in excess of 18 times the amount found in the human body. Further investigations into production staff and actors turned up no leads on the nature of the anomaly. Analysis of SCP-5853-A's closing credits did show that instead of consistent staffers, a continually growing list of names scrolled by. Cross-referencing the credits against known missing children showed several matches, and only 17% of the names listed are known to the Foundation. A high score is truly dedicated business. Do you need a moment? You're not worn out from the first 2 already, are you? Let's take a trek out to a nice little place then, with a cathartic understanding of emotional drain and racking up a number. SCP-8794 is a collective group of log cabins constructed from pine wood, each of varying heights and interior areas. 8794 does not possess any overt visual anomalies, but can be identified by their state of moderate disrepair. Any entrances to SCP-8794 are universally sealed from inside. The log cabins periodically manifest in wooded areas in the continental United States, typically close to areas of moderate human habitation. Upon manifesting, SCP-8794-A and an instance of SCP-8794-1 will appear in such a township. 8794-A is a humanoid entity, resembling an average-built human wearing a dark cloak obscuring their facial features. It is unknown if SCP-8794-A is human, though they are sapient. 8794-1, directed by 8794-A, works to spread as much fear and unrest throughout the township as possible, and typically possesses characteristics generally regarded as disturbing, but unsuccessful due to insufficient understanding of human emotions. Several instances of SCP-8794 activity are recorded by the Foundation. March 25, 2009. Itasca State Park, Minnesota. An unoccupied home in Park Rapids, vacant since 1992, displayed numerous qualities indicative of spectral phenomena, including disembodied noises, a fluid resembling blood oozing from walls, and spontaneous manifestations of human viscera. Notably, analysis by responding Foundation personnel did not detect the presence of any legitimate spectral entities. Instance remained unaddressed for several weeks as anomalous phenomena continued. A civilian eventually noted 8794-1's effects while walking around their neighborhood and submitted a complaint to local police, attempting to press obscenity charges against the home's owners. October 5, 2009. Lynchburg, Virginia. A large humanoid entity wearing a motorcycle jacket with jeans and a metallic bucket over its head, obscuring any facial features. This entity carried a large fire axe and behaved aggressively, but moved exceptionally slow, irrespective of any force applied to it or any haste in its movements. The entity moved throughout Lynchburg in a stalking manner and attempted to abduct and kill several townsfolk. All individuals involved were able to easily avoid these advances. The entity became a figure of ridicule in Lynchburg for some time before accidental destruction by falling debris. June 3, 2010. Bend, Oregon. A spectral entity seen moving throughout several different residences in Bend. When directly interacted with, it would provide subjects with an elaborate and incredibly detailed story regarding their origins. These narratives are structured in a way to elicit horror, though an excessive degree of detail undermined horrific value. This entity's actions were initially noted as an urban legend spread throughout a variety of conspiracy forums, and several stories told by the entity have been shared on the internet in various forms since discovery. The entity naturally dissipated as its stories lost popularity, though information control procedures were still deemed necessary due to their widespread nature. February 11, 2011. Gillette, Wyoming. Massive mechanical automaton, the remains of which were found outside Gillette. This entity appears to have been designed with several anomalous weapon systems, though it was inactive when discovered. This entity was noted by several townsfolk, who described hearing an exceptionally loud mechanical noise followed by a similarly large crash. Footage of the entity captured and shared online by investigating citizens alerted Foundation web crawlers to the entity's existence, and containment was enacted immediately. September 29, 2012. Russellville, Arkansas. A large group, estimated 700, of human corpses, each sentient and capable of unassisted bipedal movement, moving throughout town and politely asking residents if they could eat their flesh in a manner associated with zombies. One instance, upon seeing itself in the reflection of a store's display window, expressed distress at its desiccated appearance and informed the other zombies present. The group began panicking, expressing various reactions ranging from attempting to improve their appearance using cosmetic products to attempted self-destruction. The entities were contained without significant resistance. On October 1, 2013, the 19th recorded instance manifested outside Charles City, Virginia, displaying unprecedented behavior, and that no 8794-1 came with it. 8794-A, the directing entity, exited shortly after the log cabin's arrival and was immediately apprehended by a mobile task force without resistance. As a result, the Foundation was able to explore the interior of an 8794 instance and interrogate 8794-A. The interior of the log cabin resembled a massive underground complex consisting of numerous floors and descending 7 levels underground. Each level contained a series of doors leading to various environments, all resembling the settings of different horror movies. Some notable examples include the shore of a large lake with an empty, different log cabin present on its shore, a forest at night, a high school campus decorated for Halloween festivities, and the set of an in-production horror film. These areas were fully traversable and behaved as similar environments, though did not contain any inhabitants. At the bottom of the complex, task force members found a massive ritual circle similar to a traditional summoning circle and showing evidence of recent use. Notable items recovered during exploration include 210 liters of fake blood, 6 dismembered human body part props, each stained with varying amounts of fake blood, a 1990s era analog camcorder, non-functional, and a CRT television with a connected Blu-ray player. The entry includes, incredibly, a recording of the interrogation between 8794A and a head researcher.
Alright, you got me. Big whoop. Is this really necessary when you clearly already swept my lair?
Standard procedure, and considering you wouldn't be in this position if not for your careless disruption of the veil, I don't believe you're in a position to ask such a thing. If I may speak freely, despite your obvious frustration, you've been unusually cooperative for an anomalous fugitive, SCP-8794A.
Yeah, no shit. Not like I can do much in the face of the freaking Foundation.
And yet, you clearly want attention drawn to your haunted house charade. I think you allowed us to capture you to some ulterior end.
Are you shitting me? Look at my face. Does this look like a face that could do anything? Anything more than stick its tongue out at you and hope for the best?
As someone so clearly adept at fear-mongering, I believe you could appreciate the adage, looks are deceiving.
Okay, the sarcasm was a little uncalled for.
What could you have hoped to accomplish with your charade?
I want it to be like the scary people on the TV.
You just wanted to scare people?
Did I stutter?
You're dancing around the question. Why do you want to scare people? And why did you continue trying despite your failure?
I like horror movies and I think scaring people's fun. That's it.
Why submit yourself to us?
That was more a knee-jerk reaction now that I think about it. Things weren't working and I just wanted the cabins out of my sight.
So that's it? Your sole motivation as a rampant anomaly was to scare people, and you allowed us to contain you because you were frustrated?
Right on the money, buddy. Honestly, I think you expect too much out of anomalies.
Who would have guessed an SCP entity is just like us? Turns out being a fan of horror is a universal interest. Just be sure not to follow your passion for all things scary in as much dedication to terrorizing whole towns like this one. SCP-542 is an entity that knows all about horrifying passion. It claims that it has been, at one time, a typical human of Caucasian descent, identifying as German in nationality, a story supported by the fact that German appears to be his first language, speaking all others with a German accent. SCP-542 requests to be called Surgeon by staff. Standard IQ tests have revealed 542's IQ to range around 150, placing him as high intelligence. It is unknown how old 542 is. He claims to have been dreadfully normal before World War I started, and claims to have worked for the German government during World War II, even if he found their goals boringly simple. SCP-542 may hide his odd features under heavy clothing, but prefers to wear only a nice pair of slacks, revealing his hunched form, distended gut, warped ribcage, and bizarre arm structure. He has been described as a Frankenstein's monster in appearance. His skin is made from patches of various hues and shades, some healed together with scars, while others are still stitched. Non-symmetrical bone and muscle structure reveals that he has replaced the majority of his body over time, and admits to having worked with helpers before to replace such things as portions of his own spinal cord. His arms are always too long for his body, and his hands have been modified greatly to have additional joints in the fingers. The skin is pulled rather tightly over 542's face, giving him a somewhat skeletal appearance along with the tendency for his bones to bulge through his skin. His teeth, it should be noted, are collected from different individuals, some of them not even human. It is not uncommon for him to cough or to vomit blood, and as such requires infusions approximately once per week. SCP-542 can passively sense the health and medical status of himself and other humans within several meters, the range extending to approximately 5 when he focuses. He admits that he uses this process, which he doesn't understand himself, to pick his next victims. The surgeon's cost of living has been proven to be the cause behind a string of 45 murders over the course of 3 years that occurred across Germany, England, and America. And he is suspected of an additional, unconfirmed 15 murders in that time span. Personnel are reminded that even if his personality is pleasant the majority of the time, he will still dissect personnel for amusement and curiosity's sake if given the chance. Seemingly safe items, such as sewing supplies, have led to him making more than a rather well-tailored jacket for himself, but also resulted in him restraining a Class D personnel by sewing him to the mattress of the bed, then removing his kidneys and a portion of the liver. 542's file comes with an incident report concerning an agent staying at a hotel in Germany, who heard the sounds of a scuffle and screaming from across the hall one night at approximately 3 a.m. local time. After forcing the door open, he observed SCP-542 removing the muscles and bone of the occupant's right leg. The agent fired several shots, and 542 fled through the window. The agent contacted local authorities and an ambulance. The victim, an American tourist who had only been in town for a few days, described what had happened to her while recovering in the hospital. Afterward, she willingly took the amnestic issued to her, preferring to believe that she had instead been in an unfortunate traffic accident and her right leg had been amputated. Her report is as follows. I had been to Germany before and I was used to taking the bus, but I guess I first saw him there, I think. Just this guy all hidden under heavy jackets and this hat and glasses, and of course, I was suspicious because it was summer, you know, sweltering hot. And I realized he was looking at me, but I ignored it. He didn't get off the bus at my stop, anyways, and there were always others on the bus, even late at night. I guess I saw him for 3 days, and I stopped thinking about it. He must have followed me off the bus that day. I went up to my hotel room, and the window was open, and it was all dark, the light wouldn't turn on. I figured somebody had decided to steal my stuff, so I went in to see if anything was missing, and he was hiding under the bed, and he had these freakishly long arms, and the fingers, too many joints, and he took my ankles right out from under me. He was just too fast, and he tied my arms and legs to the bed. He kept saying, like, don't worry, and you're going to help me, and I need your help, and things like that. And he said that so long as I kept quiet, he might call an ambulance afterward, and that was a little scary. He had picked up his jacket. It had been on the coat hanger by the door, and I hadn't even noticed it, and started pulling out all these knives and all these tools, and I just didn't know what to do. So I decided to take my chances and started screaming as loud as I could. Then he... The report concludes with the victim stopping there and being delivered the amnestic and alibi that night. A torturer with manners, someone who says please and thank you as they slice you apart out of mere curiosity, coming in the form of Frankenstein as his own monster. That's a different spin on a bloody pile in high quantity, right? Let's shift into a more mysterious tone in that wavelength now. SCP-6455 is a recurring series of anomalous murders, perpetrated in the same style and manner as SCP-6455-N, who was an anomalous serial killer active in Los Angeles County between 1965 and 1976. Prior to his capture by the Foundation, murders occurring as part of SCP-6455 frequently leave behind non-identifying evidence and materially change and disturb the scenes of the crime, as if a killer had been present. However, no cases that occur as part of SCP-6455 have an actual perpetrator, and all associated evidence is instead generated spontaneously by 6455. In no instance has identifying evidence been left behind, no fingerprints, biological evidence, or personal effects. SCP-6455-N was a white American male who lived from 1941 to 1984, known to the public as the Eagle Rock Doppelganger and the Los Angeles Mimic. He killed for the first time in 1960, but committed no further murders until 1965. SCP-6455-N possessed a minor anti-mimetic property which caused crucial evidence linking him to crimes to be ignored, misremembered, or misinterpreted, and it was significantly stronger on police officers and detectives. Chief Investigator Yusef Sayed, formerly of SCP Anti-Mimetics, is quoted as follows. "Before we got involved in the case, everybody thought the Eagle Rock Doppelganger or Los Angeles Mimic was one of the most genius killers the country had ever seen. But here's the thing. SCP-6455-N was never that fucking bright. Yes, he was able to commit 53 verified murders and 16 verified attempts over the course of 9 years, but the man was a fucking idiot. Everything he got away with because the cops couldn't put the clues together. I remember the first time I investigated one of his crime scenes, just after we linked the case to anti-mimetics. I flew into Los Angeles, hopped up on Nestics and at full awareness. Nestics sharpen your senses like a whetstone. There were 4 of us on the team ready to find the smallest hint of a clue that he had left behind. I walked into the house and took a look at the little table next to the door. There was a library card that I didn't think anything of, but one of my colleagues happened to take a peek, quick check of the library card's owner, and we found ERD the next day, folded as soon as we came to talk. He left his damn library card at the scene of the crime, out in the open. The cops just didn't notice. He only got away with it as long as he did because he had a blessing keeping him around. You have to understand, SCP-6455-N was sloppy. He spent hours in people's houses. He was spotted by neighbors, but his anomaly convinced them he was somebody else. His fingerprints absolutely covered every inch of a house. He never once wore gloves inside. I managed to find a few times that the dogs, knowing he was an intruder, bit him and drew blood that got into the carpet. The police just ignored it. When we finally caught 6455-N, I went to one of the few survivors to confirm what happened, but she couldn't remember his face or his voice. He wasn't wearing a mask. She got a good look at his face, but couldn't remember it. For the first 3 years following the capture of SCP-6455-N, no further incidents occurred, but in 1979, a murder with identical modus operandi took place. The Anti-Mimetics Division was deployed to investigate, but found no evidence, even when under the influence of strong nestic drugs. It was baffling, Yusef said. What was left at the scene was basically what you would have at the scene of the crime if you weren't on nestics. So we tore the place to shreds, poring over every last fragment of evidence we could. Z-class nestics, the strongest there is, universally lethal, but you will remember everything. Put some D-class on them and set them to work in the houses. But there was nothing else, not a single thread we hadn't noticed. There was just nothing to go on. Forever. No evidence. The victims kept piling up, but the killer was nowhere to be found. And of course, the general public knew about him. Still knows about him. It wasn't until 1991 that a workable theory as to the occurrence of SCP-6455 was developed. During a Foundation conference, Yusef Sayed met with Dr. Solomon Keller, an experienced Noospherics researcher. Dr. Keller had recently been performing investigation into Noospheric to material crossover, thought forms from the Noosphere powerful or developed enough to have impact in the material world. With evidence found supporting Dr. Keller's theory, the SCP-6455 Task Force began investigating the responsible thought form. This led to the discovery of a metastasized complex in the Noosphere, which was deemed responsible for SCP-6455. I'm at a bar one night, having a drink and explaining the problems of the field, talking to one Dr. Solomon Keller, Yusef continued. He thinks that our problem is in the infamy, the presence that ERD has in the collective unconsciousness. He asks if he can come onto the team and do a little investigation. 1 week. He was on the team for 1 week before he solved it. And it was worse than we could have pictured. The thought complex is a collection of fear and dread, balled around ERD. It has no active connection to SCP-6455-N. In fact, everything we know about him is entirely absent. It's only based on his killings, and then the killings that happened after we caught him. It all builds into this shape, this unknown entity that remains in people's imaginations long after the case happened. This whole time, I was looking for a culprit. Then I finally found one, but it wasn't exactly alive. But Dr. Killer told me this thought form was being actively maintained. But that's the thing. It's not intentional. It's the relatives of victims, the people who nearly got away, the dozen or so survivors. It's me and my task force. The focus we had on catching him, the eternal hunt that never went anywhere. We're scared, and our fear built up and became this thing. Addendum C, titled Today's Situation, is testimony from Solomon Keller. An excerpt reads, "We have found our killer, but what are we to do? How are we to help the victims, both past and present and future? This is, after all, our own fault. We are responsible for this mess. There is, in truth, little we can do. We cannot go back in time and solve the problem that led to this mess, as much as we wish we could. When the Foundation caught ERD/LAM in 1976, we didn't tell anyone. We didn't inform the public that they could stop cowering under their beds. Nobody realized they were safe. The fear remained. The pain didn't go away. And so now we find ourselves 40 years after the fact with the wounds he left still raw. And worse, he is still making scars. He is still lashing out beyond the grave. Yes, it is not him, but it is his legacy, and it was forged in his shape, in his image. There are options to winnow down the thought form and hurt it. But where do we begin with that? Are we to remove memory of one of the worst serial killers in American history from the public consciousness? To stomp out a popular true crime subject? Last I checked, there were no less than a dozen popular podcasts just about this one case. Half a dozen documentaries about him, and a new one coming out on HBO next year. Each one of those hurts. Are we to remove the memories from the victims themselves? To leave them with the trauma and without any idea of why? There are more victims now than there were back then, and there were enough in 1979 to start this whole mess. What are we to do? What can we do when we did all we could to prevent wounds from healing, then act shocked when those wounds bleed? Breathe. Breathe now. Nice and calm. Deep breath. Hold it. Release. See? That was fake. The blood and guts on you are from everything else before it. Now that, you're gonna need a shower and a washing machine to take care of. If you want to keep the SCP Vault journey going though, great news. You can indulge now with 9 prior episodes of terror, horror, mystery, and occasionally hilarious anomalies using the playlist in the video description. I've got dozens and dozens of entries explored across October's past. If you're still particularly bloodthirsty, check out SCP Vault 6, Creepy Stories Portal, in that year's blood drive banner for October. If Halloween fun is more your flavor, last year was entirely dedicated to the most wonderful season of all. There's an SCP Vault for everybody, or you can go wild and run them all in a marathon. After you pick up an item you love from Quite's macabre horror drop-through game yourselves with my link in the video description and the coupon code NM at checkout, of course. That's all for tonight, everyone. Thanks to the authors of this year's excellent SCP entries. Their details are in the video description. Much gratitude and appreciation to them. Thanks to my editor Moon for looking up our perspective entries this year, running the Foundation script, appropriate term, and jumping in for voice and visual fun throughout building this video. Thanks to my darling, Graphy, for also lending voice to this installment. Thanks to all of you for watching and celebrating October on Nightmind. And thanks to my supporters on Patreon and my YouTube members, who keep the spooky flashing lights on all year round. I'm not gonna drag this out. The energy's high and the blood is pumping in my veins and down the walls. Grab a pumpkin treat or drink of choice and hit up your next video. I'll see you again real soon.
Okay? Love the enthusiasm, but try and be more menacing. Yes, menacing. Not therapeutic. Menace. You're. All right, a little bit more to your. Yeah, there you. Oh no, not really a body yet, but you're getting there. I mean, tree is life, but not human life. Watch where you're swinging that thing. How about if you just no, the other way. There you go. All right, well, make sure you don't trip. We do have to, and that's the end of that. Oh God.
Perfect.